Hello, 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 and welcome everyone. We are so excited to get started in a few minutes. While you're all dialing in, please feel free to drop in the chat where you're calling in from, what you're hoping to learn today, and feel free to share your LinkedIn if you'd like to connect with others. We are super, super excited to get started soon. This is one of the Talks and Pros event series that led by community leads. This one is sponsored by Better Mode, so shout out to Better Mode. You can click the boxes at any time while we're streaming to learn more. And I'm going to walk you through a little bit of some of our exciting upcoming events. So as I mentioned, this is one of the Talks and Pros event series, but we have so much going on, including amazing premium events. If those of you who were at the summit in London, maybe you remember Margot, our amazing MC. She was there. We've got our amazing founder, Francisco. And sneak peek, in December, if you're in New York, we have an in-person meetup that we're hosting in collaboration with Tightknit and Fabric. So super, super exciting, a lot going on. Definitely recommend checking out. We're going to throw the link in the chat now, but led by Community Talks and Pros event series. And yeah, feel free to jump in the chat, ask your questions. We're super, super excited. And if you have any questions about the events or anything else, please feel free to drop them in the chat, reach out to us after. We're super excited. So with that said, I'm going to introduce Anamaria, our incredible speaker for today. Anamaria is the founder of Handle with Brain. She is an expert in learning experience design, facilitation, and community building. In her free time, she also leads a global online community of practice called L&D Shakers, which actually won the Silver Leaning Give Back Award in 2023. And yeah, I think that, Anamaria has so many incredible insights to share with us. So I'm pretty excited to sit back and listen to her now, but I'll be keeping an eye on the chat. We'll have time for Q&A afterwards. Feel free to throw everything into the comment section. And without further ado, Anamaria, I leave it over to you. We're so happy to have you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It's really fun to be here. I'm doing almost no lives like ever, so this is a full new experience for me. It feels a bit strange not to see people's faces, which I always see them, and they're very comforting to see them smiling at me. I see Said's in the room, and I see a couple of Fredericks here. So let's kick it off. Anamaria, I'm tuning in from Amsterdam today, and I am a community builder, like I assume everyone else here. I stumbled into this role about 6 years ago. I've built 3 communities from the ground up so far. One of them I'm still very much active. It's L&D Shakers. It's my soul community. And I'm going to be referring a lot to examples from L&D Shakers today. We are going to start with a bit of an interaction because I do see the chat. So that is really fun. I want to play today with a little tool that it's called Butter Seeds, and it is launching tomorrow, by the way, on Product Hunt, and it brings interaction into any type of online events. I'm working with 2 screens today, so I'm just going to be moving you around. And the link to Butter is in the chat, so please click and join me there. Hey, Maxine, it's nice to see you here. All right, I see folks joining. The link's in the chat. Fantastic. Oh, there we go. It appears on the screen as well. All right, and we're kicking off with a super short one. You can just add your pin to the world map based on where in the world you're tuning in from today. Approximately. Some of you have shared that in the chat. I see some UK, Barcelona, India, etc. I'm very curious to see it on the world map, all the little dots. All you have to do is find your approximate location and drop a pin on the map. Okay, Europe is going strong here. It's a bit crowded. We've got here the US representing. I hope everyone's doing okay after the whirlpool of all the emotions in the past days, and particularly today. I see Praveen here. Wonderful. Beautiful. All right. I am assuming that everyone is building communities. What is a community you are building right now? And if you're not building a community, something pulled you towards this session today. Maybe you're thinking of building one. Tell us about that. Tell us about your dream to build a community. And here we see all the answers coming in. So as I said, I am building a community of practice for learning and development professionals. We're a global community. We've got about 7,000 members all over the world. And we have both online presence, a lot of online events, online learning sessions, but also local hubs in about 15 cities around the world, from everything Europe to LA, New York, Sydney, and so on. I see peer-to-peer support. There we go. Saeed, community of product for Slack community professionals, practice. Praveen, very similar to me. Peer-to-peer for leadership, Carola. Community of community builders. Yes, Tom. Tech community. All right. Change management, women in product. Share the link again, please. Let me see. Zach. There we go, Petra. It's in the chat for you. All righty. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. This is definitely helpful. It's interesting to see how we're building different communities. Of course, they come in all shapes and sizes, and not all of them are communities of practice centered around learning. Now, the next question is, we're talking about co-creation today. It's one of my favorite topics, and I get to talk about it every time someone is keen to listen. And the question for y'all is your community already co-creating? And you have three options. Yes, we are co-creating, in which case you're going to stamp your choice and add your thoughts and tell us what are you co-creating. We are trying, but we're stuck. You're going to tap it here, add your thoughts, and you're going to tell us what is the challenge. And not yet, is there anything that is stopping you at the moment, or you just haven't thought about that? So it works really simple. You just pop your, you click on one of the areas that applies to you, and then you're adding a little bit of a note. This is helpful for me to know how much into detail I should go. Collaborative resource, digital accessibility, love that. Workshops, knowledge sharing session, Emilia, fantastic. Vetting co-creators, okay, I hear you. Busy community, hard time having a similar goal. Okay. Okay, so it seems like everyone is either already co-creating or you're trying, but you're stuck. Let's see if I'm bringing any new insights or ideas today. Engagement, time. Yes, sometimes finding the right people. All of this sounds very familiar. And I can also tell you right now, there's no silver bullet, and it's also not a challenge that you're ever fixing. Fantastic. Thank you. Last one before I pull up my slides. What is co-creation? I brought a definition of my own, and obviously we can, open ChatGPT and go to the dictionary. I'm more interested in your definition of co-creation. Working together, developing ideas or solutions collaboratively, creating with your community, creating things together with others, working with your members to make something together, joy and creation of value. Well, there we go. Everything above. Fantastic. You'll have access to the link afterwards, so you can still come back to the replies. Building with your members. All right, thank you very much. I'll stop and move over to my other screen. A bit of a hiccup here. All right. And moving you here. Cool. So I'll move you to another screen now. And I'll still keep my eye on the chat. Just know that I'm looking a bit on the other side. So here is my definition of co-creation. It is a form of collaborative innovation where ideas are shared and improved together rather than kept to oneself. I put an idea out there. I trust the community with my ideas. I am sharing them, and I'm also open to have it improved and also potentially even given shape. And very often co-creation starts with even a seed of an idea. I potentially sometimes don't even know what the outcome is that I'm looking forward. And it is a messy process, and it's also a very beautiful and very rewarding process. It's about bringing things into being together and dream up something that wasn't there before. And we're going to make it happen. So it feels a bit like magic to me. There's nothing there. And then we're coming up together to dream up a valuable project. It can take many shapes and forms. And I can bring some examples of artifacts that we have co-created with L&D Shakers. And we're imagining this together. And we're not only imagining, we're actually rolling up our sleeves to create it. Now, why do we care about co-creation in community? Something tells me that you already have the answer to that question. And for me, I ended up thinking about co-creation because I cared about community engagement. And I think it's always on our minds. Engagement, engaged members, how do we increase engagement? How do we make sure that people are showing up and that we create value for one another in order to have engagement? And so in here, I think this might look familiar to many of you as well. It is the so-called commitment curve. It comes from change management, and I'm reading now the author's names. It is Connor and Patterson from 82. And so this is a model that I'm almost certain we're all familiar with. It's been circulating in the world of community building as well. It is a very useful tool to plan member journeys. And it's simply a way to look at how our commitment to a certain something, in our case, community, is increasing over time. And it's a way for us to latch onto this path and see what is our role as community stewards and how do we move members along this commitment curve. And I love to use this to talk about engagement and also make the case for co-creation. So in community terms, if I take this framework and I apply it to our work, everything starts with the first step that a member takes to join the community. And then hopefully the first step that they're taking is some sort of an onboarding and welcoming program that we have. Now, hopefully that is interesting enough for them to want to dig deeper. And that dig deeper is the next step into this participation. Potentially they see an event that is happening. Maybe they were matched with a more senior member to have a one-on-one chat. Maybe they ask a question in the chat, or they find a cool resource, or they land on your newsletter, or. The idea here is what are the small steps that we can have our members take in order for our community to showcase value to them. And so we move them along in time, and as they find value and they latch onto it, they start to participate. The more they participate, the more they start making connections with other people. And so the moment they start making connections with other people, they start to feel like this is my crowd. And they have this feeling of I'm participating, I'm taking a lot. I feel like it's my turn or my time to contribute. And the reason members contribute is very different from person to person. They fall in different buckets of motivations. They might contribute because they feel like they want to give back to the industry, to the members. Because they themselves have grown through the power of community or mentors. They might want to contribute because they want to learn by doing. There are people that are very active, and that's their form of making sense of the world. So if the more I contribute, the more I grow and learn. They might want to build their personal brand, etc., etc., etc. Now, that contribution can be a one-time thing, or it can be sporadic or regular, etc. The moment I contribute and I feel like, oh, I'm being seen, this matters, this value that I'm putting into this space, it's being cherished, it's being seen, it's being cheered, it's being rewarded. Chances are a very few community members reach kind of the bottom, the top of the curve in a period of time, which also requires the strongest commitment. This is commitment of time, commitment of energy, commitment of creative ideas, etc. And they step into what we call in L&D Shakers the core team. You might call it the steering wheel, etc. Your committee. It is that I don't even know, is it 2% or we're still circulating that term? It's a very small percentage of community members that are stepping into this commitment circle, and they are taking a piece of the community, they're taking it in their leadership and they're running with it. So this is the commitment curve, and I like to actually challenge myself to be like, oh, well, do we have things to do, activities, and can we move member easily through these layers? Do we open little doors and make it very easy for them to move towards them? And to go back to this topic of co-creation and why I feel that it's much more strong, potent than creation, because co-creation and creation, they're two different things, is when I layered on top of this also the quite famous Macmillan and Chavez 86 study. And they looked at how do we create a sense of community? What is a sense of community and how do we create it? And so I layered that on top of it. And once I did that, I realized, oh, this is pretty cool. So this is the commitment curve. Our role is to create little interactions, and everything we're doing should be geared towards making easy for people to move upwards this curve. Now, before people join the community, before our members can find us, it is our job to think of creative ways to create a sense of curiosity and of awareness of the space. I'm not going to talk a lot about that, but if there's questions, we can chat about that. I'm creating a sense of curiosity, and then they pass this awareness boundary and they become members. And so I onboard them. And in this first onboarding, the first interactions with the community, in whatever shape or form that takes, it can be a private message, it can be an onboarding cohort, it can be a monthly welcome event, whatever shape that takes for you. The role there is to start creating this sense of security, identification, and belonging. I am safe here, meaning I know how to behave. I know the rules of engagement. I know what is frowned upon, what is allowed. I have examples of types of behaviors here. And so that gives me a sense of safety of how I can show up in the space that is at the beginning full of strangers. Identification and belonging is this piece of what are these people talking about? What are the events? What are the chats saying? Who are they? What do they do? What conversations are they having? What are they sharing? How are they talking? How are they showing up? And are they my people? So that is the first thing. And that's one of the key components of the study and one of the ingredients for us to create a sense of belonging, a sense of community inside. So we do that. Obviously, we continue building on those things at every. So it's not kind of like bucketed. We continue working on the sense of belonging. But this is what's happening at the beginning, at the get-go. As members start to participate because they see things that it's interesting for them, hopefully as we bring them together in these collective spaces, ideally synchronous, online or offline, we start, or our goal through this participation, whenever we bring them together, is to ensure that they have the opportunity to create this shared emotional connection. And Macmillan and Chavez have a very detailed equation, if I can call it like that, of what that means. But reduced it is people need to come in contact with one another. And Emily Weber says communities, people bumping heads. You need to come together. And so many of my clients and a lot of people that I mentor or I talk with, they're like, I started a forum or a Slack or a LinkedIn group or whatever, and people are not engaging. There's no engagement and people are not talking to one another. And I'm like, well, have you brought them together? No, they could just use the forum to kind of ask questions and share resources. And I'm like, no one's going to do that. Like, when was the last time you've done something like that? So community is people bumping heads. They have to come in contact as humans. Online, offline, doesn't matter. And then that contact has to make sure that it's a ground for high quality interaction to take place. And I'm going to come back to that. So keep that in mind. Contact with high quality interaction. Lastly, a sense of that they move as they move into this contribution. They're like, I like this. I'm taking a lot. It's time for me to give back, to maybe challenge myself, to learn by doing, etc. I'm starting to contribute. Every single contribution by every single community member should be seen, rewarded, and acknowledged. And communities will have different ways of rewarding their members' contributions. In Alani Shakers, because we're a free community of practice and we're not a legal entity, we don't exist. It's not affiliated or associated to anything. The rewards we're giving is in cheers and recognition and social proofs, and actually kudos and love. So that's important. If I feel like I'm contributing and no one is seizing it, I feel like that value is not being appreciated, it doesn't land, no one acknowledges it, chances are I'm not going to go enter that loop to pass the commitment boundary and enter the core team leading piece or group. And finally, once we move people to that leadership and they're like, I'm really attached to this place, I really love it here, I want to take a piece of it in my hand and run with it, own it. It is really where Macmillan and Chavez mentioned this sense of empowerment and influence. So in a community, I know that we come together because we have something, a shared something. It can be a shared location, a shared interest, a shared passion, a shared job, a shared whatever it is that brings your community together, that glue, that red thread. Now, we want this community, when we come together, we want to be impact and influence. So the community will influence its members. That's why we create value, because we want members to go from A to B and to go through a certain change they desire and what they're looking for when they join a community. Everyone desired something. They want to go somewhere. They want to take advantage of that space. That's why we're joining communities. And so if I am going that extra mile and I take something in my hands, it is because to create a sense of community, members need to also feel that it's not only the community influencing them, they're also influencing and empowering the community. And that's what usually, once you move into contribution and leading, we need to be open to that core team of contributors to influence the community. And I'm going to come back to that because that is potentially one of the biggest blockers, true, real blockers of co-creation within communities. So we all want engagement. And actually, when we talk about that, then we say, I want more engagement. I want to boost engagement. I need an engagement strategy, whatever it is. That's what we want. We want folks to contribute. We want folks to raise their hands. We want folks to proactively chat and post and ask and share and whatnot. So we're looking towards that upper side of commitment. But what we're doing on a daily basis very often, and I see this time and again, and not only I see this, I've been there and I am still there, we optimize for participation. We optimize for observing and participating and soaking it all in. And I'm going to explain why is that. I'm going to have a look at the clock. So a lot of the things in community and the activities that are happening and the things that are keeping busy, it was the same for L&D Shakers, for the Border community, every community I've built so far. And many of the communities I'm part of, they look something like this. And as a matter of fact, today we are in one of these sessions. There are expert webinars, maybe there's some workshops if you're lucky, and there's some interaction there and we're working on something, probably some sticky notes, maybe some networking, there's social mixers and Ask Me Anything, fireside chat, boot camps, co-working, book clubs, conferences, you name it. So all of these things are, let's say, the usual suspects whenever I land in a community. And this was for sure the first thing that I went to grab from my shelf to put into to create in my community when I started. What they all have in common is that they invite participation. They invite folks to come in and have something delivered for them. There are these events, you can bucket them on that side. And the problem is not that they're events, they're valuable and they serve a purpose. And if they're well facilitated, they can bring a sense of connection and they can add value to the members. But very often the message that we transmit is we host them for them. Either we as leaders are going to handpick, curate the speakers, or maybe we go and we proactively seek them and we plan a conference and then we host it. And so we're the facilitators, we're the creators of the value, and we're inviting our community to step in as a sponge and as a participant. There is nothing wrong with that, but I'm playing at the bottom of that commitment curve. So if that's all I'm playing, if that's all I'm creating, and that's all I'm allowing my members to be, if they don't see anything else, and very often if they don't have permission and they cannot imagine what it means to contribute, to raise your hand, to own a piece of the community, then that is very hard to move towards those upper layers of the commitment curve. And so here's where I found co-creation is a very good example, and it's a format or an approach that helps us seamlessly move the folks that can have the capacity, the desire, and the motivation to move upwards the curve to do so. Why is co-creation so important? We come together usually over an extended period of time. In events, I come together sporadically. Even if I have a good conversation with someone in a breakout, maybe I don't find them in the forum, and maybe so that it's diluted. When we come together to co-create, the group is usually smaller, and we come together over an extended period of time. It's very participatory and collaborative because very often we don't even know what we're creating. So we need to start at zero. We build stronger relationship. Also, there's a lot of emotions and feelings because co-creation is really hard. And so we welcome all of the feelings, and there's a lot of work inside. But as we go through conflicts, disagreements, challenges, that's what glues us together more. We learn by doing, we build competencies, we build confidence. We get to influence the outcome. It's theirs, it's mine. If I'm co-creating, I have full agency and I get full influence on the thing we're building together. They get to put a valuable artifact into the world that has their name on it. So here's we have that recognition component as well that is being met. And also I might be building a career portfolio or a thought leadership piece. Bottom line, co-creation, if done well, they enable the value for each other. It's not someone that creates it and invites you in. It's the community, a group of people, your members, that enable value for each other. Okay, a couple of examples, mindful of the time, and just bear in mind that I don't see I'm going to ask Ruthie to keep an eye on the chat for me. A few examples from Alan Ishika's, maybe they are inspiring. Again, I want to go back to the reframing this community of practice. For us, it's all about learning. We come together to get better over time at our daily job, which is learning and development, and to improve our craft, which is learning, designing learning for others and enabling learning. A beautiful example that it's kind of it's a true co-creation story. Started, I think it was 2 years ago. Alexandra Ranke, she's a community member. She posted a question in the LinkedIn group. She said, "Hey friends," she's an ally manager. "I am working on my yearly strategy." It was, I think, September or something like that. "And I do not know where to start. I am overwhelmed. There's so much content out there. I have no idea where to start. How do you go about that?" That one message triggered many comments of, "Oh my God, I feel the same. This is so hard. This is so frustrating. This is so challenging. Here's how it's working for me. Where are you guys going?" So it started something. Like, she met a need. She found something. And in a conversation, I said, "Wow, Alexandra, this is really cool. Do you want to bring these people together in like a think tank to try to figure it out?" And then she said yes. So that was the beginning of this massive, I think it took 8 months. It had about 26 collaborators, community builders, and they have come together to build this mirror board that you're seeing now, and it's called the L&D Strategy Blueprint. It is an open source document, mirror board, that they've put into the world. And what they've done, they've come together to create, how do you have to go about building your L&D strategy? We have to do that every single year. We all have to go through that piece. It is painful. There are not good resources there. They're scattered everywhere. How do we bring them together? They've worked with feedbacking the community. What are you challenging? Then call to actions to create the streams, the working streams. They had a lot of workshops to decide how do they want to tackle this. Like, what is this? What are they creating? What does good look like? How much time can they put into? How do they divide and conquer? Like, there's a strong piece when you co-create, a strong piece of taking care of the dynamics. I always tell people when you co-create, you need to imagine 2 layers. The first one is the layer you see. That is the project management of getting the work done. We co-create because we want to create something. So there's a thing at the end, an artifact that we're working towards. And so there's milestone, there's deadline, there's tasks, and how do we divide the work and who does what and all that, and actually doing the work. And that's the thing you see when you see people working. Now, the underlying layer, the one that you rarely see, is the so-called group dynamics layer. And that is what makes co-creation both terribly hard and incredibly satisfying. Those are have we aligned properly? Who is in the room? How do we communicate? How do we react when we step on each other's toes? How do we take decisions? What do we do when someone is pulling out? How do we hold each other accountable? How do we actually get better at working together very intentionally? And so this was a massive project, and it resulted in a beautiful artifact. There are people in this Miro board on a daily basis. I'm so proud of Alexandra. She did amazing here. Another example is I don't even know how to call this. It's maybe like a research / think tank, etc. Adam and Larissa came with the idea. They run it by me. I said, fantastic, let's go out there. So they took the community and the people interested through a design thinking co-creation approach, and they had one goal. Again, they didn't know how this is going to pan out, like what are they going to create, but they knew that we have shared challenges. So what are the top challenges of small teams? So it was specifically geared at small companies. What are their specific challenges? The top 3, can we identify them? And then how do we put our brains together to solve them and create almost like a data bank, like a bank of solutions that small L&D teams can use to tackle their top 3 challenges? They started with interviews with the community. They went on and they done a survey. They had a call to action for participants. They had groups working in different workshops, and they took them through the framework. And it also resulted in a beautiful artifact and also a Padlet board where we crowdsourced those solutions. So there were a lot of creativity put into place. And so if you're working on something that falls into one of those 3 buckets, you can always come back to this artifact and find fish ideas out of it so that you save time and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. A third example here is we kicked this off today, and this is the last one that I'll showcase. It is the so-called L&D Career Bootcamp. Judith and Grace came with this idea, and they realized that there are so many community members, L&D shakers, that are transitioning or looking to transition into L&D from different fields. And there are also a lot of L&D peers, Grace being one of them, who are transitioning roles. Like they want to move from one role to the other. They want to move some of us from full-time to running our own business. There's a lot of transitioning stories. And the L&D landscape is really broad. So it's not like I'm working in accounting and then you kind of imagine what they're doing, or I'm a lawyer, right? When you say I work in L&D, your day-to-day can look very different from company to company and job title to job title. And so this is how they co-created this feeling. They have made a culture. We're working on this. We don't know exactly what this will be like. It is for these type of people that have this challenge. This is a survey. Tell us what you're faced with. What are your questions? What are your challenges? What are you struggling with? They took all of that data and they realized, okay, we need someone to talk about this. We need to work on this. We need a workshop on that. We need to tackle this mindset. We need to tackle this practicality, So they created a bit the topics. And then we did a call to action for speakers and community members that can fill up those spots because they have the competencies. And then we build up this beautiful 1-month journey where community members are helping us, well, all of us collectively, deliver this learning journey for each other. Now, I think I had one more. I'm going to stop here and move on to border again. I hope that there are still some people here. Quickly see what it is. Bear with me for a second, friends. Just want to make sure that I find my scenes. Yes, here we go. Not a seamless transition as I have hoped. Okay, so I'm going to fish this link back. And I'm popping it in the chat for you. Oh yes, I still see some people are in the room. Woohoo! Cool stuff. All right, so we're going back into the border scenes. And I am curious to know if the examples I've shared, some of the points, the thoughts, the things that I've shared so far have triggered any potential, untapped potential, or ideas or insights with regards to co-creation projects within your community. Granted, we're all building different things, so they might not be easily transferable. And the way to do so is either you click here, and then you add your thought, and then you click add note. And so that's kind of how we're creating a little sticky note wall for untapped potential. What could you explore? This is looking towards the future. Better sense of belonging at onboarding. That is actually a great co-creation project, Rihanna, with your community to take over and co-create what that onboarding sequence should look like for your particular case in order to create that sense of belonging. I can share what we're doing in L&D Shakers for sure. More belonging, there we go. It's quite high on the agenda. For us, what we're doing and also what we have experimented with is every member gets so we vet the members. They usually find us through LinkedIn. And that means that we are going to every single person's profile and we are vetting and making sure that they are L&D practitioners. The practitioners part is really important. You need to sit every day at your desk and work in L&D. Doesn't matter your job title, whether you're internal, external. Once that is a fact, we invite you in the community, and then I will send you a personal message with everything that you need to know to get started in the community. And those are our rules of engagement, our community events. And I will also tell you that this is a space that we co-create and that you can turn into your playground. You can host events, you can launch projects, etc. So we actually set that expectations from the first message. We also had we have a monthly networking session. So that is just a facilitated community gathering for folks to meet. We have a one-on-one donut pair in a Slack channel if you want to be paired with someone. And also we embed a moment of connection. We try to embed that in every single event through breakout rooms and conversations and meeting people. So that's pretty much how we're working at the moment. Co-creation valuable events, create a team for working on food system, in-person meetups in the towns, governments, decision-making. Yes, Tom, we actually co-created that for L&D Shakers as well. How do you get the buy-in? Okay, I can talk about that later as well. For me, what works really well in buy-in journey is, so too ambitious, is can you break it down into like what makes it too ambitious and is it really too ambitious? And sometimes because sometimes you have this vision of, I want this to look a certain way. I always recommend people when they co-create to hold on to that vision until later stages. And so open up and go with that beginner's mindset. And it's like, I am thinking it would be really cool to have an ML ops architecture playground for people, whatever that means. I don't know what the context. But you leave it open. So what is the purpose of that? What is the value of that co-creation, of that artifact, of the thing you're creating? And then the shape in which it comes, whether it's big, ambitious, small, etc., leave it open to whoever raises their hand to help you co-create that. Call to action, this is my initial idea, and then you have to start workshopping and build that image together with the people. And so no vision they're building is going to be too ambitious because it's theirs. They have built it. But it's you that has to be okay with the fact that that vision might be different than your vision initially that you have in your brain. I hope that helps. All right. Fantastic. Okay. Yes.
All righty. Thank you so much. I think we are ready for some questions and answers.
Fantastic.
So I'm going to just jump right in, Anamaria, if you're ready.
Let's do it.
Okay, so one of the questions I received directly is, how long should stepping up in the curve of commitment or engagement take? Any experience with the length of it?
Yeah. I had this question in the masterclass I hosted yesterday. And
of course you did.
Of course I did. I do not know the answer to that question from a source that it's a study or that someone looked into it thoroughly or properly. So this being said, is my personal opinion, and this is based on the experience I have made. The answer is there is not a time frame. But there is almost, if you imagine this as a scaffolding, there are some certain conditions that have to be met. So, and the biggest condition to be met is the members' clarity around the motivation of why do I want to contribute and lead. In L&D Shakers, we have people that are taking that contribution and that leading after a while. I've landed here, I participated a lot and I kind of get the gist of it. And now I'm thinking I'm ready to bring my gifts to the community and create something. But there are people that are joining, and from week number 2, they're like, okay, I want to do something here. And so the first question I always ask people is, why do you want to do it? What is the driving force? And anything they say is valid. There is no motivation better than the other, but I love that transparency, because sometimes people, and again, they will have different motivators. The people that are working on their personal brand, or they want visibility, it's going to be much easier for them to jump on that commitment curve. And the people that are still in this, they're coming in with the main for, I'm new, I am learning, etc. They're having a harder time and potentially need a bit more encouragement to move towards the through the curve, if that makes sense. Yeah. So not really, but every person will decide that for themselves, and you have to find them and catch them where they are.
Great. Awesome. We have another question here. So do you suggest keeping it very vague in co-creation sessions, or showing your original, more fleshed out thoughts and being open to other ideas?
So Tara, my experience is that the moment I share out something fleshed out, I invite people to participate to my idea, because I already have an idea. This is what it's gonna look like. Again, it's not bad. It's somewhere in between. So it's better than you doing it by yourself alone at your desk and then putting it out there. Okay, so it's somewhere in between. But true co-creation is being open to an outcome that the group decides. So you might have a clarity on the intention. That has to be clear. Why am I doing this? Is because people are struggling with X? Is because we do not know how to design our strategy? Like, there has to be a clear need that can rally people around. Once they rally around that need, be open, and inside that workshop, you can go with your fleshed out thoughts, but you're not imposing them. You're saying, this is how I see it. So how are you seeing, Tara? Like, what do you think about this? Because the reason I always encourage us to do that is, for me, every single time I stepped in a co-creation with that beginner's mindset, always the result was better than anything I have ever entered in that process with. Always. the group was always smarter than Anamaria alone.
Yeah,
Surprise!
it's true
Yeah.
somehow. We have another question from Tom. Any thoughts on token incentives as a way to recognize and reward member contribution and distribute ownership and upside?
When I hear token incentives, this makes me think of tokens like gamification or something like that. I have zero experience with that. We don't work with that. One thing that I'm not even sure if that's a token though. I had 1 year created badges for all of the roles in the L&D Shakers core team. We have about 60 people in the core team, and they all have different roles. So for each and every role, I created a badge with the skills that they can take and put on LinkedIn and in their email signatures and whatever they want to showcase as a proof of skills, applicable skills and their work. So that's one of the things, Tom. It was free, and you can just use any type of, I think I used Badger to create the badges, and it came very well. We work a lot with kudos inside the community and appreciations by members, and kudos outside of the community on LinkedIn, on our LinkedIn platforms. And that is what works for us most. Not sure if that's what you were looking for, though, Tom.
Thank you so much. We have another question from Amelia. Members appreciate having access to shared resources, but don't contribute to the library. How can I motivate them to do that? $1 million
Okay, Emilia. Hey, nice to see you here. Yes. So we do also have so here's how we've done it. We have a wiki that lives in Notion, and we decided to go for a curator for that wiki. So we invented a role, and it's called Community Curator, and that is Ines. Shout out to her. She is the person that shows up in the community channels once a week. She has an hour blocked in her agenda, and she fishes out everything that was shared in all of the threads. And she's putting that into Notion. She's curating that. Is this relevant? Is this evergreen? Is this going to be relevant in a year from now? I'm putting it there. So we have a structure with tags and so on for easy finding. And so there are three different sources for these resources that Ines is looking at. One is conversations. She looks into threads. And usually when conversations happen, people are sharing. Here's a link, here's an article, here's a toolkit, here's whatever. She fishes that out. Second, we have a channel called Share Resources. And that's where we share resources. Ines share resources. And because members, it's a dedicated channel for that, people do go there and share their resources. The only rule we have, you cannot share your own resource. So you can share other resource, your own, you share it in another space. We want to avoid the share resource channel to become this ground for personal marketing and content marketing situation. Here's my podcast, here's my article, here's my blog, here's my, no, someone else's work. And thirdly is Sejal is curating our newsletter, and Sejal is actually actively going into the market to see what important resources there are and sends out the newsletter. And so Ines takes that and puts it into the wiki. So we don't ask people to put the things into the wiki. We make it very easy for them to, we have someone that does that.
Awesome. A follow-up on the gamification question. So have you ever applied co-creation gamification in a community to improve engagement?
I have not, David, and I don't think I will ever do that. I have applied gamification in a community to improve to test learning of a program. And that was, I built a community for trainers, internal trainers within Ace and Tate. And we had a month-long gamified treasure hunt, but it was very much linked to a learning program they were doing. And the prize were they got to travel to Amsterdam to co-deliver the next train the trainer. So it was a very fun, interesting incentive for them. It was fun, it worked, and it's a hit and miss. I'm not a fan of gamification.
Interesting. We have a question also from Eugenia. Do you have any tips and tricks of how to reach people online?
Oh, Eugenia, tips on how to reach people online. I don't know if you have something particular in mind here. Are we talking about how can you grow your community by new members? There we go. Okay, so again, my experience, and we're doing this for L&D shakers, and we were doing this for butter. Maybe for butter a bit more intentional than for L&D shakers. So L&D shakers it's a professional community, and so our playground is LinkedIn. I don't know what community you're building. Your playground might be Instagram or another social media platform, or Discord, or somewhere else where people gather. Ours is LinkedIn, and it really helped for us to create. We have a LinkedIn group, but it really helped to create a LinkedIn company page. Our group is closed. You need to be accepted to come in. A company page, anyone can follow it, and you can also tag it. The moment we created a company page, people started, oh, L&D Shakers, I attended this event. This is so cool. Oh, I worked with a mentor from L&D Shakers, bam. Oh, blah, blah, blah. So people start tagging the community. And so this is kind of how you increase that reach or engagement. And the best way to do that is create a lot of value. Or I also have to say, do cool shit. Talk about the cool shit you're doing and be proud of all the stuff you're doing in the community, right?
True for anything.
Value, talk about that, put it out there.
Okay, we have a question from Vesna. Anamaria, could you please explain the first steps, like how to invite new members, how to proceed when people gather? Is it like asking new members to co-create or research a certain topic?
Okay, Vesna. How to invite new members, how to proceed when people, is it like asking them to carry on research on a certain topic? Okay, so the start of the co-creation, I take it as that. So how do I start to co-create? I think there's different ways. For L&D Shakers, it usually looks like this. Someone gets an idea. Sometimes it's a bit more fleshed out, sometimes it's vague. And usually it's an idea of there is a need and we don't meet that need, or the market is not meeting it. Like people have to transition, they don't know how to navigate. People work on strategy, they don't know how to get it. So there's always a need, a pain point. Then they usually come to me first. Anamaria, I have this idea, what do I do about it? And almost always my advice is you need to craft a call to action towards the community, because we need to know whether there's other people that care about this or no. So we craft a call to action, we put it out there, and this is how they gathered and they create the core team, the co-creation team. Afterwards, so it's a process of applications, interviews, whatever that looks for you. And then it is in the responsibility of this person who had the idea to workshop. The first workshop is always alignment, expectations. Who are you? What are we doing here? The next workshop is what are we building and how do so you it requires that person to take that in their hands. And I have so much more to share here. Also, it's quite
Okay, we're going to try and squeeze in one more question, if possible. How do you monetize on engagement?
How do you monetize on engagement? How can you monetize? Meaning monetize on engagement, like these ZT. Can you? So I don't know what that means, basically. I'm not sure what monetize on engagement means. Monetize on the community, like membership, or
we can jump to one, if you're able to share the link to the amazing L&D resources. And two, there's a question, what are your thoughts on creating a team of community volunteers, ambassadors who help lead engagement?
Yeah. Hi, Laila. I think we're rallying a team of volunteers, ambassadors who their designated task is to lead the engagement. I don't think that's generally a bad idea, as long as what they're doing is still very much rooted into this idea of value and being very close to the members and trying, like, relentlessly going to figure out what is value. Because I think when we put people, and I fell into that trap, that's why I know. We went for things like, okay, these are volunteers for engagement, so Dear volunteers, your task is to share a resource a week and create a whatever a month and host an event a whatever. So it turns into this artificial task things that you're kind of artificially trying to manufacture engagement. If you steer away from that, then I think there's chances to do that.
Amazing. We have one last question from Alicia. How do you make sure that the attendance conversion is high so as the list of registered people don't drop significantly on the date of the event?
Yeah. So just today I was talking about this. In Alani Shakers, we have a show up rate anything between 30 to 50, which is really high for free events. I think a couple of things. First, expectations. Like I really try to make sure that the description of the event showcases what the event is all about. I don't leave it vague or very like, this is active. It is, hey, cool. this is an active workshop. This is what you're gonna expect, etc. Because I prefer people to filter out instead of saying I'm going and then not showing up or being disappointed. So clarity into what are you selling, what are you inviting them to participate. Second of all, we work with Luma, which has sends out reminders a day in advance and a hour in advance, and we ask people, if you cannot make it, just free up the space so we know what's happening. And third, this has to do with after the event, we always showcase the value of the events. Like we always take screenshots and recordings, and we take takeaways and so on. And sometimes we don't record all of the events. And because our events are very active and participatory, you need to be in the room to get the value. You can't just watch a recording to get the value. And so it's up to them to decide, do I need this or not?
Awesome. Okay, last question. I know we're very close to the end of time, but if you can quickly share about monetization. While co-creating, can you learn about members' needs and identify challenges that your product or service can help solve?
Okay. I think this was Emilia's answer to what TZ was asking about monetization, right? So, okay, so your community sells something. There are some products or services or whatever you're selling, a conference, whatever it is you're selling. So you're monetizing something.
Yeah.
And then indeed this co-create, I'm not sure if that's co-creation, but yeah, co-creation can help do that. I never co-created something that we sold, but I can imagine that can be a very good incentive for whoever raises their hands to contribute. So I don't know, experiments.
Anamaria, that is all we have time for. Thank you so much. Answering so many questions like a champ. People, please put your LinkedIns if you'd like to connect, and feel free to follow up with myself, with Anamaria, with Francisco, with any questions. A huge thank you to Anamaria, and thank you to all of you for being so engaged and sharing so many questions. Really quickly before we wrap, we have an event coming up on December 17th, mapping out your 2025 schedule. Do not miss it. The continuation of our Talks and Pros event series. Hope to see you all soon. And if you're in New York, please swing by in person on December 5th. Thank you all so much. And thank you again to Anamaria. Incredible insights today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It was awesome. See you around.
See you. Thank you.
Bye.